What would you do if you were trapped in a dark, submerged pipe, fighting for your life against the odds? This question echoes the harrowing experience of 5 divers on February 25, 2022, who were plunged into a nightmare that would test their limits and resilience. Their story is about bravery, desperation, and the unyielding will to survive. The calm before the storm. On that fateful day, the divers from LMCS, Faisal Kurban, Kazim Ali Jr., Rishi Nagasar, Yusuf Henry, and Christopher Boudram, descended into the depths of the ocean at the Berth 6 platform in Pointe-de-Pierre, Trinidad and Tobago. They were tasked with maintenance work on a dormant oil pipeline belonging to the state-owned Paria fuel company. This 30-inch underwater pipeline, designed to transport oil from Berth 6 to Berth 5, was a routine job for these seasoned professionals. As they prepared for their dive, the atmosphere was filled with camaraderie and confidence. They had completed similar tasks countless times before, and their experience gave them a sense of security. The team had set up a unique habitat, a dry workspace shaped like an 8-foot cube over the pipeline, allowing them to work comfortably without the encumbrance of their diving gear. However, unbeknownst to them, a deadly surprise awaited. 2 weeks prior, an inflatable plug had been installed to protect the pipeline from contamination. This plug, while standard procedure, created a dangerous pressure differential that the divers were unaware of. The descent into darkness. As the divers began their work, the atmosphere shifted. Kazim handed a wrench to his crewmates to loosen the valve on the inflatable plug. In that moment, the tranquility of their workspace shattered. The pressure differential unleashed a catastrophic force, transforming the inside of the pipe into a relentless vortex. In an instant, the divers were violently sucked into the pipeline, hurtling through a chaotic whirlpool of water and oil. For 90 agonizing seconds, they fought against the powerful current, struggling for breath as they were pulled deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, they came to a stop. Disoriented and terrified, they found themselves trapped in a narrow section of the pipe, where an air pocket allowed them to breathe. The sheer terror of their predicament began to sink in. They were not just trapped, they were in a fight for their lives, the fight for survival. Christopher Boudram, the sole survivor, vividly recalls the horror of that moment. Everything went black. I remember trying to cover my head, but I was being pulled through the pipe at unbelievable speeds. I couldn't hold my breath any longer. My eyes burned, and I couldn't see anything. My body was sore, and I thought I was going to die. As the divers struggled to maintain hope, they quickly realized that communication was crucial. The least injured Chris took charge, guiding the others through the treacherous conditions. They formed a chain, using each other's strength to navigate the slippery, oil-coated pipe. Despite their injuries and the overwhelming fear, they pressed on, praying for a way out. The GoPro camera mounted on one of the divers recorded every second of their plight, capturing the sheer terror and sounds of struggle as they fought for their lives. Chris initially believed they had been hurled through the pipe head first, so they had to crawl backward to escape. However, the others were convinced they had entered foot first. Trusting their judgment, Chris placed his feet on Kazim's shoulders and instructed him to pull the group together while Faisal pushed from the back. Linked together as a chain, they began to navigate the thick, slippery oil residue in pitch-black darkness. Their progress was painfully slow, and the end was nowhere in sight. The weight of despair hung heavy in the air, but they kept moving, driven by the flickering flame of hope. As they continued, they stumbled upon 2 oxygen tanks with regulators still attached. Chris warned the group that breathing the air inside the pipe could make them delirious and nauseous, so he advised them to take small sips to conserve their air. The harrowing decision. Despite the discovery of the oxygen tanks, the situation grew increasingly dire. The water levels began to rise, and Chris noticed that some of his crewmates struggled to breathe. Realizing the gravity of their predicament, he made a horrifying discovery. The next section of the pipe was entirely submerged. With only 2 oxygen tanks for 5 men, continuing was not an option. Chris faced the hardest decision of his life. He had to leave the group behind to seek help. After explaining the situation to the others, they reluctantly agreed that it was their only chance. They handed Chris one of the oxygen tanks, and with a promise to return, he plunged into the submerged section. fighting against the darkness and uncertainty. The descent into the abyss. As Chris swam through the flooded pipe, he felt the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Every stroke was a battle against time and dwindling air supply. He had no idea if he was going in the right direction or how much air he had left in the tank. Suddenly, fate intervened. Chris collided with another metal object. It was another oxygen tank. Desperate for air, he scrambled in the darkness to find the regulator. After a frantic search, he finally found it but realized it had no mouthpiece. With no time to waste, he pushed the entire tank into his mouth, his lips coated in oily sludge. Gasping for breath, he felt a surge of relief, but knew he couldn't stop. He pressed on through the pipe, determined to find a way out. The final push. After what felt like hours, Chris finally reached another air pocket, but he knew his only escape lay ahead. The path was fraught with challenges, and he could hear Faisal calling out his name, urging him to wait. But Chris understood the urgency. They had been in the pipe too long, and their time was running out. He continued until he found the bend in the pipe that he hoped would lead to salvation. This was the moment of truth. Either this was berth 5, sealed off by a plug, or it was berth 6, where they had come from. With one last push of determination, he kicked off towards the riser. Exhausted but resolute, Chris swam with all his strength. Finally reaching the top of the pipe, he emerged into the light, gasping for air, but the ordeal was far from over. Aftermath. When Chris recounted the situation to the rescue team, disbelief met his desperate account. The company assumed the pipeline was full of oil, and that the trapped divers would have only a limited supply of air. As the hours ticked by, the remaining divers endured unimaginable suffering. They struggled with injuries, dwindling air, and the suffocating presence of oil fumes and rising seawater. Despite the rescue team's efforts, they were unable to reach the trapped men in time. Days later, the bodies of the 4 divers were recovered, but the tragedy left a haunting question. How could such a disaster occur? An inquiry was launched to investigate the circumstances surrounding the incident, revealing the risks involved in underwater maintenance work. The story of these 5 divers is not just one of tragedy. It is also a testament to the human spirit's resilience. Christopher Budrum emerged from the depths not only as a survivor, but as a voice for his fallen comrades. His experience serves as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by those who work beneath the waves, and the importance of safety in high-risk professions. In the aftermath of the incident, the inquiry revealed the systemic failures that led to the tragedy. It highlighted the need for better training, rigorous safety protocols, and a commitment to ensuring the well-being of those who risk their lives for their jobs. Conclusion. The harrowing experience of these divers is a story that will resonate for years to come. It is a reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. As we reflect on their journey, we are called to honor their memory by advocating for safety, preparedness, and the unwavering commitment to protect those who work in perilous conditions. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.